My dear students, today we are going to discuss about the executive. Executive means the branch of the government which implements the decisions of the other two branches. One is judiciary or one is a parliament. So if parliament tells something to be implemented, the rules and regulations that are passed by the parliament should be put into reality, put into work by the executive. And if judiciary tells some of the rules and regulations and do something to executive, that also executive has to do it. So executive means the organ of the government which executes, which implements, which puts the things into real life situation and practice is known as a executive. In America, the executive is headed by the President of America. When America got independence from the hands of Britain, Americans decided to have a different system of government. They wanted a republican form of government. A republic means the head of the country is elected. So they have decided to have the president elected. So then they decided to have an executive power to the president, means the prime minister's activity is given to the president. So in Indian system, the prime minister and president, separate authorities, separate persons are, that both are clubbed together to one person in America. So American system of government, we call it a presidential system of government. Indian system, we call it the parliamentary system of government. So in India, the prime minister is the head of the executive. He is appointed by the president. But the president cannot choose anybody as a prime minister. The leader of the majority party in the Lok Sabha to be made the prime minister. Only once Mr. Venkatraman has made a person without being the majority leader. That is Atal Bihari Vajpayee. But he was a leader of the single largest party in the parliament, not majority. But he resigned after 13 days because he was not able to prove majority inside the house. So a person remains as the prime minister if majority members inside the parliament support a person as a prime minister, a leader. Other times, anywhere, every time, the leader of the majority party is made prime minister. It is not compulsory, only one party should be there. It can be many parties joined together and they can declare their prime minister, their leader as the prime minister. That many parties join together and form the government, we call it a coalition government. At present, we have got a coalition government led by Mr. Narendra Modi. And the coalition is named as National Democratic Alliance, NDA, we call in short forms. Before 2014, we had UPA, United Progressive Alliance, led by Congress. So they are the two important political parties in India. The alliances are led by Congress and BJP. So the political executive, the prime minister, and prime minister selects other ministers who have to work with him. The important ministers are called cabinet ministers. It may be 25 or 30 members will be the ministers. They are called cabinet ministers. The cabinet ministers are the most important and the most powerful decision-making body in the country. The total number of ministers, we call it a council of ministers. So in the council of ministers, there are different kinds of ministers, different levels. First one is cabinet minister. Second one is minister of state independent charges. Then there are ministers of state. Then there may be deputy ministers. All these group of ministers are called council of ministers. Important and powerful persons who are given independent departments, they are called cabinet ministers. Then ministers of state with independent charges means there will be some ministers who are not a cabinet, but they are given an independent department. Sometimes sports, sometimes some fisheries, sometimes aeroplane or aviation department, like that. Anything department is given to one particular individual and there is no cabinet minister for that. So this minister who is having independent charge will be invited by the Prime Minister to attend the cabinet meeting when a meeting concerned his department or his or her department is there in the cabinet. Then there is a ministers of state, means those persons come under the cabinet ministers. If they take a finance department, there may be 2 ministers of state under a finance department. Like that every department may have. Finance department, education department, railway, defense. Like that important ministries may have ministers of state. They are not independent charges. They are not invited to attend the cabinet meeting. And if the responsible cabinet minister is not present in the cabinet meeting due to some reasons, then if the special invitation is given to him by the Prime Minister, he can attend the cabinet meeting. They are called ministers of state. The word hearing, don't think that they are the ministers of one particular state. They are not meant for particular state, they are meant for India, all over, every part of India. But the word is used like ministers of state, with independent charges and without independent charges. Now at present, there are no deputy ministers. Deputy ministers are still not having the equal status like a ministers of state. So they are called, these all together are called political executives. Every minister is bound to be member of the parliament, either of Rajya Sabha or of Lok Sabha. But if a person is made a minister without being a member of parliament, he has to become the member of the parliament. That means a person can be made a minister without being a member of the parliament. But within 6 months, he has to become either of the Rajya Sabha or a Lok Sabha member. Otherwise, after 6 months period is over, he has to resign. No option is left if he is not member of the house. And if any minister is in disagreement with the prime minister, that minister has to resign. No minister can disagree with any decisions taken by the cabinet. Cabinet decision is decision of all the members of the cabinet. If any minister is not agreeing with the decisions of the cabinet, he has to resign from the cabinet, or he will be dismissed by the prime minister from the cabinet. All the ministers are appointed by the president. All the ministers are of the same ruling coalition or ruling party. Opposition party members are not selected in the cabinet because opposition party members will not agree with all the decisions of the cabinet. That is why the cabinet will be of the members of all same party or same coalition. So that is the executive. The political executive. There is a permanent executive. What is a permanent executive? The government officials are called permanent executive. Permanent executive members are selected through a competitive examination process. The senior-most IAS officer in the country is called the cabinet secretary. They are called secretaries, and just junior to him, they are called secretaries in the different departments of India. Defense secretary, finance secretary, education secretary, railway secretary. They are the next powerful members. Cabinet secretary is the coordinator of everything, the cabinet. He attends the cabinet meeting along with the cabinet ministers, and it is his duty to record down important data. And if the prime minister asks any questions or any ministers ask anything concerning, it is his duty to inform for taking decisions. So that is a cabinet and decision making. So permanent executive members, even from the senior most IAS officer to a person who cleans the surrounding areas of the areas, all of any office, all of them include in the permanent executive. They have got a retirement age. It is 60 years in central government, and minimum joining date is around, it varies, 18 years to it varies. So that is a permanent executive. They implement the decisions of the political executive. Political executive will leave after 5 years. When a new election is taking place, sometimes new government will come. The political executive changes, but the permanent executive remains. So when a new government has come, it is the responsibility of the permanent executive to work as per the directions of the new government. That's a decision of the political executive. So the cabinet meeting is headed by the prime minister. So the decisions are taken together, we already told. So during Indira Gandhi's time, sometimes he used to take a unilateral decision. The cabinet, all the ministers are equally powerful in the cabinet, but the coalition government, other ministers will demand many things. They will say, if we are not agreeing with our point, we will leave the government. So in the coalition government, everybody will be having more control. The prime minister may not be so much powerful and strong because he has to listen to the viewpoints of other political parties. Because if other political parties are withdrawing the support, the government cannot remain. Then comes the president. The president is the head of the country. He is elected indirectly. He is elected by the elected MLAs and MPs of the country. No nominated MP or MLA can participate in the election of the president. Only elected MPs and MLAs participate in the election of the president. So, for the election of president, we call it an electoral college. The elected MPs and MLAs join together. That group is called electoral college. And it is compulsory that the person who should get elected should get a minimum 50% of the total votes polled. In normal other elections, it is not necessary. Whichever person gets more number of votes. If there are 10 candidates contesting in the election, one person who gets 11% vote will be declared as a winner in normal elections, but in the presidential election, that is not possible. He has to get a minimum 50% of the total votes polled. Then only that person will be declared elected. Otherwise, re-election will take place. The candidates who are first round, second round, if the candidates who are having less number of sometimes will be removed, other candidates will be fighting each other. At last, minimum 50% of the votes. So that system is followed in it. So the age limit for a person to be president of India is 35. He should be a citizen of India. He should not be treated in mental hospitals, and he should not be declared a pauper. Should not belong to any political parties. Should not be enjoying or should not be receiving any salary from the government. So all these are the qualifications mentioned for the post of the president. There is no prescribed educational qualification for the post of president. Maximum age limit also is not mentioned. That is the president. He is the head of the country as head of the country. The prime minister is given oath by the president. And president is given oath by the Chief Justice of India, and Chief Justice of India is given oath by the president. So they are the two persons who give oath to each other. President to Chief Justice and Chief Justice the President of India. And all other ministers, all other officials, all who are taking oath in front of the president. You know, ministers and taking charge, you might have seen in TV, oath-taking ceremony. So there, when it comes to state government, in front of the governor, they take charge. That is the position of the president. All the constitutional powers are given to the president, not to the prime minister. But at last, one statement tells that all the powers that are given to the president will be implemented or utilized as per the advice given to him or her by the cabinet. So cabinet is responsible for actions, not the president. So president does ask for the advice given to him. For any wrong actions of the government, the president is not held responsible. It is the responsibility of the government, the cabinet. That's why prime minister is responsible. The government is responsible. Ministers are responsible. President is accepting the demands made by. President is sometimes we can call him as a rubber stamp. But why then President? But he can ask sometimes to reconsider the decisions of the cabinet. So once the cabinet brings a decision to do something, he can say, please, I feel it is not so much necessary, please reconsider. But if the cabinet reconsiders it and tells that the same thing should be signed by the president, then the president has no option. He has to sign or resign the job, telling that I cannot sign. Why it is so? Because there should be no conflict. There should be no two power blocks, only one. Otherwise, the president tells something, the prime minister informs the government or president to agree something, president doesn't agree, then there is a deadlock. There is no way to solve the deadlock. That is why the constitutional writers are clearly mentioned. The president is advised by the cabinet. And president has to function as per the advice of the cabinet. He can ask them to reconsider it. Once it is reconsidered and they tell the same thing, then president has no choice. But we know, if president is resigning in protest, naturally there will be anger against the government. Public will come to know, protest will be there, anger against the governmental decision will be taking place. So, that is a provision that is made in the constitution that the president, if he is feeling so much unhappy with the decision of the government, he can resign, telling that I am not ready to sign, I cannot sign. It is not correct. So, naturally, government has to face the problem because the government has to go to the people after 5 years. That is why the constitutional writers have mentioned such a clause inside the constitution. President has to accept, but this is the condition. That is the President of India. He is the head of the country. He is the head of the executive parliament. During every session of the parliament, beginning of the session of the parliament, year session, that's in the budget session, president addresses the parliament, and that speech is also as per the advice of the government. It is not his speech. He is speaking as per the government. But government cannot simply do anything without his consent. He has to sign. So he has got the right to question the parliament or question the cabinet. Why it is so? Please give me the clarifications. After he is satisfied, he can sign. So it's a check. The government will not simply make any rules and regulations. Without the president's signature, no law that is passed by the parliament will become, act passed by the parliament will become a law. Once Rajiv Gandhi government passed an act named a postal bill, the president did not sign it. So it did not become a law. So like that, the president has got the power to decide. Unless and until he signs, nothing will take place. No law will be made. No action will be taken, government. When declaration of the war, the president has to, he is a commander-in-chief. Without his order, war will not be fought. So everything is there. This is for understanding, checking, to have a good administration so that no individual will take a unilateral or wrong decision and nobody becomes a dictator. That is why the provisions are clearly mentioned in the constitution. There is a system of government in India. We have got a presidential system in America. I already explained about the presidential system. Okay. Tomorrow we will discuss about the judiciary. Okay. Thank you very much. The judiciary is the highest organ in India. The judges are appointed by the president on the recommendations of the cabinet. The names of the judges are given by the collegium or senior most judges, selected judges. The judges of the high courts and supreme courts are appointed by the government. There are 34 judges authorized as strength of the Supreme Court. And no judge can be removed by the executive. Not even a single paise of their salary or facilities that are provided them can be reduced without their consent by the government, because judges should be independent. Judges should not be afraid of giving any judgment against the executive or a legislature. If they are under the mercy of the executive feels unhappy, executive can remove a judge. That is why it is mentioned, no chance of that. Executive cannot remove a judge of a Supreme Court or a High Court. They have to be impeached. And impeachment procedure is long, and 2/3 members of the house where impeachment procedure has started should agree. Once the 2/3 members agree to impeach, then it will go to other house. Other house also should pass the bill of impeachment. Till now, no impeachment has taken place in India. There are some impeachment movements are taking place. The judges who were said to be corrupt or who have done something wrong resigned their jobs. So no impeachment has taken place. So that is a procedure of judiciary. And judiciary judges can decide any law passed by the parliament as null and void if it goes against the constitution. Judges can decide any actions of the executive as wrong if it goes against the rules and regulations passed by the parliament and implemented by the government of India. So that is the judiciary. If my fundamental right is not guaranteed, if I am not getting my fundamental rights, I have got right to go to Supreme Court and get my fundamental rights. So Supreme Court is the important organ of the government, which provides rights to the citizens. Thus the judicial system is important. Okay, thank you very much.